Okay, I want you to picture your typical Tuesday morning.
Mhm.
You've got your coffee, you sit down at your desk, and you have this clear, simple goal. I need to pick a new tool to monitor our software. Simple, right?
In theory, yes.
Mm.
In practice, that is the beginning of a 3-day nightmare.
Right. Because you don't just pick a tool. You open Google, you search Best Observability Tools 2026, and suddenly you have, what, like 40 tabs open?
Oh, yeah.
You're reading marketing fluff on 5 different landing pages.
Huh.
You're looking at a comparison chart from 3 years ago that still lists companies that went bankrupt, and your brain, it just starts to melt.
It's the classic analysis paralysis. And it happens because you, the human, are acting as the manual filter for the entire internet. You're trying to process raw data into wisdom, and the volume is just, it's too high for one person.
Exactly. And that feeling, that friction, that is where our deep dive starts today. We're looking at a breakdown from a startup called EcoDeliver. They claim they've cut their development time in half, literally 50%. Not by typing faster, but by killing this exact kind of paralysis.
And I want to be really clear about the premise here. This isn't about AI, replacing the programmer. They aren't just saying, hey, Siri, build me an app.
Exactly.
Which, by the way, never works.
It never does. No. They're talking about a fundamental shift in the workflow. It's about using AI as a force multiplier to handle the, let's call them the mechanical parts of the job.
So searching, the structuring.
The boilerplate, yeah, all of that. So the human can focus purely on the logic.
So let's go back to that Tuesday morning nightmare, the research phase.
Right.
EcoDeliver says this is the first place they gain just massive speed. But they aren't just asking ChatGPT, hey, what's the best tool?
No, and that's the mistake that I think most people make. If you ask a generic question, you get a generic answer. Or worse, a hallucination.
For sure.
The insight here is all about context injection.
Context injection. Okay, break that down for us. It means you have to teach the AI about your reality before you ask it for the solution. So, EcoDeliver. They explicitly input their specific architecture.
So they're feeding it details.
Yes. They tell the AI, look, we run Node.js, we use TypeScript, we are on AWS, and we have a budget of X. Now, given that specific reality, compare the observability tools available.
So it filters out the noise. It doesn't tell you about some tool that only works for Python if you're writing in Node.
Precisely. It acts less like a search engine and more like a senior consultant who's already read all the documentation for you.
Okay.
It just hands you a table. Here are the pros and cons, specifically for your team.
But hold on. I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't there a risk that the AI just misses something or biases the results toward whatever tool was most popular in its training data?
That is a very real risk, and the source material is super clear on this. The AI is never the decision maker.
Okay.
It is the synthesizer. The world of software isn't black and white. It's all grayscale. There are always trade-offs.
So the human still has to pull the trigger.
Yes. But instead of spending 10 hours gathering the files to even form an opinion, the AI fast-forwards you to the moment where you use your judgment.
You're skipping the grunt work.
Not the thinking, just the grunt work.
Okay, so we've picked our tech. The paralysis is gone. Now we have to actually design the thing. And this is where the EcoDeliver process gets really interesting to me because they stop using drag and drop tools.
Right. They lean heavily on something called mermaid diagrams.
Now, for anyone listening who hasn't used Mermaid, this isn't drawing, right? It's not like opening Visio or Figma.
No, it's code. It's a syntax
Right.
where you write text to describe a diagram. You literally type user points to app and app points to database, and the computer renders the flowchart for you.
Why does that matter for AI? Why not just ask the AI to draw me a picture?
Because large language models, at their core, are text engines. They're actually terrible at spatial reasoning and pixels. If you ask an AI to draw me a system architecture, you'll often get this weird, hallucinated mess where lines don't connect. But if you ask it to write the mermaid code for a system architecture, it's brilliant.
I see. So you're playing to the AI's strength text generation to get a visual result.
Exactly. The example they use is building a Telegram bot that finds the cheapest gas station. Instead of the developer manually dragging boxes around, they just ask the AI to generate the mermaid code.
Which saves time, sure, but here's the part that really blew my mind. The force multiplier effect doesn't stop at the diagram.
This is the aha moment. Once they have that text-based diagram, they feed it back into the AI.
It's a loop.
It is. They say, okay, look at this diagram you just made. Now, based on this architecture, go scaffold the file structure for the project.
And this solves what I call the blank page dread.
The mental discharge, yes. I mean, think about it. Every time you start a new coding project, you have to do the same boring stuff. I need a src folder, I need a config folder, I need a .ignore file, I need to set up the database connection string.
It's like assembling the IKEA furniture before you actually get to sit on the couch.
That's a great analogy. And it drains your battery. You haven't solved a single hard problem yet, but you've already used up like 10% of your daily energy just on setup.
So in this workflow, the AI looks at the diagram, it sees a box labeled database, and it automatically creates the dbconnection.js file in the right folder.
Yes, it builds the skeleton of the house instantly. You just walk in, the walls are up, the plumbing is roughed in. All you have to do is start painting.
That is undeniably faster. But once the project is started, you run into the next wall. The dreaded project management.
Ah, yes. The administrative tax of software development.
The source talks about the afternoon slump of managing Jira tickets, right?
Yeah.
Using the Atlassian suite, we all know this pain.
Oh, yeah.
You finish a feature, but before you can move on, you have to write a user story, acceptance criteria, define the epic. It's a total grind.
It breaks your flow. You're in code mode, thinking about logic and algorithms, and suddenly you have to switch into bureaucrat mode to fill out forms.
So how do they solve it? They feed the requirements to the AI and have it write the tickets. But again, it's not just write a ticket.
No, because every team talks differently. If you just ask for a generic ticket, it'll sound robotic. The trick they use is providing the context of previous tasks.
Why is that so critical?
Because it allows the AI to clone the team's voice. I mean, some teams are very formal. The user shall navigate to the login page.
Right.
Other teams are super casual. Fix the login button. By showing the AI the history, it mimics the style.
So it's not just generating text, it's generating your text.
Exactly.
Okay.
It turns a 20-minute administrative chore into a 2-minute review. You read it, you nod, maybe you change one word, and you hit submit. You stay in the flow.
I love that. But I want to shift gears to what I think is the absolute standout example in this research. We've talked about starting new projects, greenfield projects, but let's be honest, 90% of a developer's life isn't greenfield. It's wading through the swamp of legacy code.
The brown field, as we call it. And this is where most tools just fall apart.
But the example EcoDeliver uses is, honestly, it sounds terrifying. They talk about ArduPilot,
which is open source, drone, autopilot software. And just to give you a sense of scale, this is not a little iPhone app. This is 17,000 files.
17,000.
It's complex, C++T. It involves physics, aerodynamics, hardware drivers.
The source describes entering this code base as being an elephant in a china shop. You are terrified to touch anything because if you change one line of code here, a drone might literally fall out of the sky in real life.
The stakes are incredibly high. And the specific challenge they walk through is modifying the motor mixer.
Which sounds like a kitchen appliance, but I assume it is not.
No. The motor mixer is the mathematical matrix that tells the drone, if I want to turn left, which motors do I spin and how fast? It's pure math.
Okay.
And in a code base of 17,000 files, finding where that math lives is a detective job that could take a senior engineer 3 days.
So in the old days, you'd be grepping, just searching for keywords and opening hundreds of random files hoping to get lucky. Is it in the file? No. Is it in the library? No.
Exactly. It's looking for a needle in a haystack, but the haystack is made of other needles.
Enter the tool. Cursor. It's an AI-powered code editor. Now, a lot of people have used Copilot or ChatGPT. How is this different?
The magic word is indexing.
Break that down. What does indexing mean in this context?
So think of it like this. Standard ChatGPT is like a genius who has read the whole internet, but has never seen your private diary.
Right.
It doesn't know your secrets. It doesn't know your file structure.
So if I ask it about ArduPilot, it's just guessing based on public info.
Right. But Cursor takes those 17,000 files and it reads them all beforehand. It calculates vectors, these mathematical representations of the meaning of the code, and stores them. It creates a mental map, an index of how everything connects to everything else.
So when you ask a question, it's not guessing. It's looking at the map.
Right. So in the demo, the developer asks, how do I add a custom motor mixer? And because the AI has indexed the code, it doesn't just give a generic C++ answer. It says, go to the AP Motors library. Look at this specific matrix in apmotors matrix.ctp. You need to add your code right here.
It found the needle in the haystack in 10 seconds.
It did. And think about the implications for onboarding. If you hire a new developer tomorrow to work on ArduPilot, It usually takes them 6 months just to build that mental map of where things are.
For sure.
With this, they can contribute on day one.
That is wild. It's
Yeah.
like having a GPS for a city you've never visited before.
Or even for yourself. I mean, be honest. How often do you look at code you wrote 6 months ago and think, who wrote this? What does this even do?
All the time. It's like reading a stranger's handwriting.
Code amnesia is real. This tool effectively cures it. You can just ask your own code base, where is the logic for the battery failsafe? And it just tells you.
This connects perfectly to the next point. Documentation. Because traditionally, documentation is a static manual. You have to read it linearly or search through a table of contents.
And let's be real, documentation is often dense. It covers every single edge case, which is great for completeness, but terrible for quick implementation.
Yeah. The example they give is using the Zod library, which is used for types in TypeScript. Instead of reading the whole manual, they just paste the documentation URL into the AI chat.
Or use a tool that has already indexed those docs.
Exactly. And they just ask a specific question. How do I create a new type using Zod?
And the source describes this experience as talking to an expert.
That's the feeling, isn't it? It's like you have the creator of Zod sitting right next to you. You don't have to hunt for the answer. You just ask, and it gives you the snippet.
It changes the whole relationship with information. We are moving from a search and retrieve model to an ask and synthesize model. You aren't digging for gold anymore. You're just asking for the ring.
Okay, so we've researched, we've architected, we've managed the project, we've navigated the beast of legacy code, and we've chatted with the docs. Now comes the long tail of software development. Maintenance.
Right.
Specifically, comments and testing.
And this is an area where the source makes a really interesting distinction about when to use AI.
Yes. They mention that AI is actually not great at commenting brand new projects. Why is that?
Because it just guesses. If there's no precedent, the AI will just use these generic commenting styles. This function adds 2 numbers. Well, thanks. I can see that.
It adds noise, not value.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But on a mature project,
that's different.
That's where it shines. If you feed it the global context, meaning, here is how we have commented the last 50 files, and you say, comment this new file using the same style, it nails it.
They mention it can even mimic formats like Doxygen perfectly.
It creates consistency. And consistency is what makes a code base maintainable. If every file is commented in a different style, it's jarring to read. AI just enforces that style guide automatically.
And then there's unit testing.
The bane of many developers' existence.
It's necessary, but it's so logical. It feels redundant. If input is A, output should be B.
And because it is so strictly logical, it is the perfect task for an LLM. The source explains that since the code is already written, the AI can infer exactly what needs to be tested.
You just provide the code and say, we use these testing libraries, and boom, it generates the test cases.
It removes the friction. And if testing is easy, developers will do it more often. If it's a chore, they'll skip it. By automating the writing of the tests, EcoDeliver is likely increasing their code coverage significantly without spending extra time.
So let's zoom out a bit. We've walked through this entire life cycle. EcoDeliver claims this stack saves them roughly 50% of their time. That is massive.
It is. But I think the most interesting part isn't the time savings itself, it's how the role of the developer changes during that time.
What do you mean?
Well, listen to what we've been describing. In every single phase, from the architecture diagram to the Jira ticket to the unit test, the human isn't doing the generating. They aren't typing the boilerplate, they aren't drawing the boxes, they aren't writing the test syntax.
You're right. They're reviewing, they're editing, they're prompting.
The developer moves from being a writer of syntax to a verifier of logic and a manager of context. The skill set shifts. It's less about memorizing the exact syntax for a loop in C++ and more about understanding the architecture and ensuring the AI is doing what you intended.
It's like moving from being the bricklayer to being the architect who is also supervising the bricklaying robots.
Precisely. And that requires a high level of expertise. You can't verify the code if you don't understand it. So in a way, you need more fundamental knowledge to use these tools safely, even though they make the work faster.
That's a really good point. You can't just trust the motor mixer solution if you don't know how motors work.
Exactly. The AI gives you the answer, but you provide the judgment.
But this brings up a provocative thought that hit me while reading this. We talked about how the AI learns from your existing code to write new code that looks just like it.
Right, for consistency.
But what if our existing code is garbage? What if we have spaghetti code from 3 years ago? What if our comments are misleading?
I see where you're going with this.
If we tell the AI, do it like I did before, are we just automating our own bad habits? Are we using AI to cement our mistakes by generating more of them faster?
That is the danger. If your context is flawed, the AI will perfectly replicate that flaw. It's a mirror. It just reflects what you show it.
So you aren't just scaling your productivity, you might be scaling your dysfunction.
Exactly. And that's why the verifier role is so important. Perhaps the next great challenge isn't just generating code, but using AI to challenge our existing patterns. To ask it, hey, don't just copy my style. Tell me if my style is actually bad.
Now that would be a deep dive for another day. Using AI as a code critic, not just a code writer.
Indeed. The tools can provide the labor, but they can't provide the taste. That's still on us.
So here's our challenge to you, the listener. You might not be building drone autopilots or Kubernetes clusters today, but try this. The next time you open a documentation file, don't read it. Try chatting with it. Paste it into an LLM and ask your specific question. See if it changes how you feel about the information.
It's a small step, but it's the beginning of that shift from searching to synthesizing.
And with that, thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Happy coding.